Okay, counting down for 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
So many of our favorites to watch. Oh, look, now they're being bashed. I guess that's what we should expect on the Bullied Nostalgia Podcast.
Hello, and welcome to the Bullied Nostalgia Podcast. Praise Beethoven.
No!
It would be a really weird point to join into this podcast.
Like a first-time watch.
If this is your first time tuning in, our podcast consists of two sets of brothers, one pair born in the 80s and the other born in the 2000s. Together, they rewatch the older generation's classic movies, more specifically the VHSs they grew up with. The old ones reminisce while the younger ones complain. If you'd like to provide us with any feedback regarding our show, say you wanted us to exclusively cover Land Before Time movies, you can email us at bulliedpod@gmail.com. That's bullied, spelled B-U-L-L-I-E-D, pod, P-O-D, @gmail.com.
I think that's the wrong information, John. If they want to talk about Land Before Time stuff, they have to email a different account.
Joining me here today is Chance. Hello. Kylan.
Heyo.
And Timothy.
Heyo.
My name is John.
Not gonna say heyo.
Do you like dinosaurs, cartoons, musicals, the power of friendship, and rock pushing? Wow. Your time has come because your prehistoric pals are back. Each season we have watched a different Land Before Time movie. In season 1, we watched Land Before Time 3, The Time of Great Giving, and in season 2, watched Land Before Time, Journey Through the Mist. And this year is no different. Today we are discussing Land Before Time 2, The Great Valley Adventure. Now, I would like to make a point here. Tim often says that he was far too old for the Land Before Time sequels. I was looking at my VHS collection and opened up Land Before Time 2. And I found a note inscribed on the inside. It says it was a gift from Grandma and Grandpa Nesbitt in January 1995 to Timothy and Jonathan. XOXOXO.
Was that supposed to be the smoking gun, John?
Damning evidence.
Now, what do you have to say that this movie was just as much for you as it was for me?
I'm imagining like a Detective Columbo style type, like, oh, and one more thing. You said you never liked Land Before Time, right? Well, that wouldn't make sense with this your VHS tape back.
Speechless? Speechless?
No, it's the number of things our grandparents gave us is a long list. And I'm not saying that I never watched the second one. I'm sure I watched it, but I did not have the same adoration for them as you did. And I'm sure that our grandparents didn't know exactly what movies we would like living in a different province. I will give you this, John. You ready? This is easily the best Land Before Time movie we've watched for this podcast. If you are, in fact, joining our podcast in season 3, these movies mean something to John. I was there for that experience, and I could care less. We've gone to some pretty deep lows watching Land Before Time movies. Season 2 was so bad that I honestly questioned why I was still doing a podcast. But this movie is almost not torture. It's mediocre, John. This is a mediocre movie.
This is good news. It makes sense. Let's start off the podcast episode on a positive note. Tim was alluding to where we've gone with Land Before Time on this podcast before. So I'd like to have Kylan give a super brief recap to our listeners as to what Land Before Time is, as well as what happened in movies 3 and 4 that we watched previously.
Land Before Time follows a long-necked dinosaur named Littlefoot and their adventures with their friends. They go on adventures and explore and usually interact with sharp-toothed dinosaurs. In movie 4, Littlefoot meets up with dinosaurs from outside of the Great Valley, which is where they live, and they go on adventures there. In movie 3, the Great Valley runs out of water supply. This movie, on the other hand, follows the titular cast chasing down egg nappers, eventually accidentally finding a sharp tooth or a T-Rex egg and raising a small T-Rex named Chomper.
Right on, Kai. Thanks. So I guess just to remind listeners, this is not a historical piece.
Oh my gosh.
I know it's hard to believe, but this is an animated movie. This isn't like a film crew or anything.
The Littlefoot biopic.
No dinosaurs were harmed in the making of this movie.
I'd assume there'd be some child labor laws against having a baby T-Rex in your movie.
Well, let's get into the meat and potatoes of this lovely animated dinosaur musical adventure. What were people's experiences with the characters in this film?
The 2 egg nappers are dumb, and I hated them.
And they added nothing but the plot overall.
I'm really happy that we gave Land Before Time 2 all of this praise, and the Chance jumps in here with, these guys are dumb.
I kind of like to imagine that Chance's line there was like a Mad Libs. And he just fill in the blank. Any character in Land Before Time is stupid and I hate them.
Well, the regular cast, I mean, I've seen them 3 times already. It was status quo. The only thing that did jump out to me about the regular cast this time around is I felt like Sarah screamed a lot in this movie. Like every 5 seconds.
Yes, so for our listeners, there are 5 main protagonists. Kai mentioned Littlefoot, the long neck, like a brachiosaurus. Sarah, the triceratops, or 3-horned.
I don't know if she's a triceratops in this. It doesn't look like she has the other 2 horns.
Well, she's called a 3-horned. Her dad is a triceratops, and her name is Triceratops.
You've got Petrie, the flyer, also a pterodactyl. You've got Ducky, the swimmer, also a whatever those swimming dinosaurs are called.
Duckbill one.
And then you've got Spike, the unknown dinosaur. Chance, you were honing in on Sarah. Anyone have any comments on Sarah?
No. I have nothing to say about the 5 normal dinosaurs. They're the exact same punishment that we've been watching for the last 3 years.
All right, well, I have a comment about Sarah.
Okay.
I remember our grandma always calling Sarah very cheeky. You remember that, Tim?
No, I was never talking to Grandma about the Land Before Time sequels.
Hey,
Anyway.
that says otherwise.
Pretend all you want, Tim. Secrets out.
The inscription on the back of the note says, I know Tim loves these movies so much.
I included John's name on it, but it's really for Tim.
Cheeky was like Grandma's greatest insult. She reserved that for the worst of the worst. So she wasn't a fan of Sarah. And really, I feel like in this movie, Sarah was quite a bully. That's all I want to say.
Okay.
Tim said there was nothing else to say about any of the main characters. Does anyone have anything else to say about them?
The main cast sings a song that isn't the worst thing ever. It's a miracle. They sing it at the start and at the end. I don't remember what it's called.
Run around?
Yeah.
Go and run around, run around.
Yeah, that
It's
part's
a beautiful feeling we're having right now.
Yeah, I will go out on a limb and say that that is the best song that we've had in a Land Before Time movie. Like, they had to find a way to ruin it. And so the only way they could think of doing that was to have a bunch of preschoolers sing it off key. But overall, that song is an enjoyable experience.
So Tim and Kai live in a big city center. I'm just envisioning it's pretty late. Tim was out somewhere. He's driving back home. He's looking at the console on the car. You don't really know what he's thinking. Meanwhile, it's raining out and Kai's biking back home from some kind of school project. There's water falling. He's got headphones on. His hood's over his head. He pulls out his phone while he's biking, pondering. You don't know what they're doing. But then simultaneously, they go press play, and this song comes on.
On our Spotify?
Yeah. Recommended to you because you listened to all the other Land Before Time songs.
On my Spotify.
When it came to my experience, I envisioned me sitting in my chair with a tub of chocolate ice cream, staring at this movie and wondering what had happened to my life to bring me to this point.
Now you know how I felt in Land Before Time 4.
It's so weird because I had a conversation with Em earlier this morning. I'm getting married now in 6 weeks. So the thought of that and then be like, okay, see ya and talk to you in a bit. And then sitting down to watch this movie as a grown adult man by myself.
We're a family, one of us now. We're a family, one of us now.
Well, Chance, we've already talked about this. We're watching Descendants at your bachelor party. There's nothing you can do.
Oh my goodness.
No,
Okay,
we are not.
we're coming back to the songs of this movie in a second, but Descendants, Chance. As Kai just mentioned, there's a new Descendants movie coming out in a month.
Em told me it's a time travel movie.
It's a time travel movie. It had a trailer that came out 2 weeks ago. And let me tell you, the hype level is palatable. In 10 days, the Descendants trailer had 86 million views, making it the most viewed trailer for a TV show or TV movie of all time.
That's really impressive.
Chance, you got to get on the hype train. The whole world wants this.
No, I don't think it does.
Okay, circling back to the songs of this movie. We get another song in this movie, and John hinted at it already. When the T-Rex baby saves them, they're all really happy with him, and they sing, "We're a family and you're one of us now." And Kylan turns to me mid-song, and he said, "Is it possible that this song is not actively giving me a headache?" The bar has been set so low for these movies.
Success is not actively harming us.
Just nurture each one of these comments, John. These are the nicest things I'm ever going to have to say about your Land Before Time movie.
I think it's fueling our listeners with hope for the future film.
It's just going to make for a much harder fall afterwards.
Yeah, 5 is going to hit really poorly.
Oh, 5's got some really good songs.
I don't believe you.
Deep, 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 deep water.
The song we haven't talked about yet is Between the Two Egg Snatchers.
Yes. And this is the only thing I have in my notes. It's just the word sung in the song. When I wake up, the first thing I do, eggs.
Forgot about that line.
That song is terrible. And it also breaks Land Before Time lore. In Land Before Time, no dinosaurs ever refer to themselves by their scientific name. However, in that song, Ozzy calls his brother Struthiomimus. That implies that Littlefoot knows that they're Brachiosaurus and not Longnecks.
This guy names himself.
Two are just exceedingly intelligent dinosaurs who would then go on to coin the entire paleontological community.
Oh, so someone overheard them and wrote down the name, and then...
That's a weird name to call your brother. I should keep that in mind.
So I've got a theory that there's different levels of education.
Oh, these guys come from outside the Great Valley.
Oh,
Yeah.
so the Great Valley is like homeschooling?
Yeah.
Everyone else has a better education outside of the Great Valley?
Well, it's tricky because whoever's outside the Great Valley in the mysterious beyond typically doesn't talk. So that's what makes me wonder if these egg nappers are actually just from a third location, maybe? But
The
it's
minor
interesting because we meet a pterodactyl in the Mysterious Beyond protecting her nest in this one, and the pterodactyl doesn't speak English. And so part of me wonders if this is like a class system where the Mysterious Beyond dinosaurs are just misunderstood.
The Great Valley is the upper crust suburbs of the Land Before Time movies.
So what you're trying to tell me is that that egg napper came from the Greater Valley.
The Greater Valley. The Greater Valley. Oh, that's good. Okay, did people want to comment on any other characters?
Chomper's passable for a small animal sidekick.
So in my story, Chopper grows up and Chopper gets married.
What? Remembered.
I'm so confused.
Then Chomper finds out that Littlefoot killed his parents.
Yeah, right.
It was in the fan fiction on the Land Before Wiki page.
We talked about it in the first season.
But talking about Chomper's parents, the two T-Rex adults, my wife did ask the question in the movie if dinosaurs are monogamous or if they find one love for life.
I would actually be on the side that this proves the opposite. Because Chomper is a blue T-Rex.
Whoa!
Nerva's dad was a Triceratops.
Maybe the
Two adult
blue
T-Rex.
T-Rex gene skips a generation.
Who knows?
Maybe he's...
I mean, what color are
Chomper's eyes.
maybe the blue T-Rex is like a prophesized savior of the sharp teeth.
That's why they tried so hard to get him back.
That's why there's so many fanfics about him.
Okay, if there was a character in this movie that you could see yourself identifying with or relating to, who would it be?
Wait, before we get to this question, I suddenly remembered something. Most of the characters did not stand out to me, but the one who did in passing was Sarah's parents. Mostly because Sarah makes a passing remark that her parents were actually secretly super racist. She's like, oh, my parents don't like me hanging out with long necks.
Sarah's parents have always been racist. But we've traveled back in time to when they were more racist. In the fourth movie, they were also super racist. But that was also back in time from the third movie.
Yes, for those who are confused, the Land Before Time timeline goes movies 1, then 2, then 4, then 3.
It's all Fast and Furious up in here.
Do Fast and Furious movies happen out of
which
order?
What?
What that?
How do you not know that? It goes 1, 2, 4,
Oh,
5,
you're
6,
right.
3, 7, 8,
I forgot
9.
that 3 happened after.
I like to think that Justin Lin was watching Land Before Time and was like, this is a good idea. Gonna do this for Fast and the Furious.
Okay, back to the question we all want to answer. What character do you see yourself identifying with?
I think I relate most to the intelligent, quote unquote, egg stealer Aussie, because he doesn't want to be in this movie. And I certainly don't want to be in this movie either.
I identify most with the egg. Make with that what you want.
Rehatched egg.
Yeah, I don't know what that means. The dinosaurs should have so many siblings, right? None of the main cast have siblings.
Spike is technically...
Yes,
Spike
Spike is
is
a
sibling.
different dinosaur.
Wow, that's dino racist.
I'm just saying, like,
What are you, a three-horn?
no, I'm just saying, like, none of these eggs hatch ever. Literally one egg per dinosaur pairing hatches.
The T-Rexes come into the Great Valley to try and get their baby back, and everyone has to team up to fight them off. Somehow, a couple preschoolers do the most damage. I don't really have anything else to say about this movie.
So many of these movies end with rock push.
100%.
Yeah, so, I mean, we've been talking about...
Did the fourth one end with rock push?
So, like, there's an alligator in the water, and Ducky's falling into its mouth, and Spike says, "Ducky!" That alligator successfully eats
So many rocks.
so many rocks. He pushed them into his mouth.
We've been talking about the plot of this movie. Did people feel like the title of this movie gave it away at all?
Why is it called the Great Valley Adventure if the point of the movie is them leaving the Great
Yeah.
Valley?
I would have named it something like when you're trying to eat an egg and you just can't catch a break.
Refill.
Rhymes,
Yeah,
dinosaur kidnapping.
We need the Aussie cut. Let us have that.
Bring back the Aussie cut. I do think that there's a more interesting movie to be had here if they were to shift protagonists.
Do they starve? Oh my goodness, actually, I kind of want to watch that now. Imagine a movie that's about the burglars from Home Alone and they can't catch a break and a bunch of children keep on beating them up.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be a great movie. I'd watch that.
I like to imagine there's a short version of this movie where Ozzy and his brother just get the egg and get away with it. So just hard cuts to them frying it in their house, eating it in silence.
I did have a thought in the big final fight at the end when the two T-Rexes come. I just feel like the stakes would have been a lot higher had some of the dinosaurs died off.
You want to hop to closing?
So, no, not yet.
Those were the
Sorry, Tim, you're not the host.
3-hour episode.
Does anyone see themselves taking away any applicable life lessons after eating this film?
Make sure you've got the right egg before you try.
and eat it?
Yeah. When I wake up in the morning.
Eggs.
Dropping rocks on people is an effective way of conflict
Murder.
resolution.
Didn't one of them eat a rock when they tried to bite into the egg?
Well, honestly, the egg that they steal falls down a mountain
It's completely
and
fine.
is perfectly fine.
That child is brain
So
damaged.
it's like bouncing off rocks and stuff. It implies that they're super solid. So those dinosaurs must have really strong jaw power to be able to eat those eggs.
It's not a real egg, it's a rock, and the Great Valley is like the Truman Show, but for these 5 dinosaurs, and they're forced to relive boring stories movie after movie until something happens.
Yeah, all of a sudden it makes way more sense that these preschoolers beat up adult T-Rexes. It was scripted all along, and those T-Rexes were just there to get ratings.
The theme of peer pressure, I feel like that came up quite a few times in this movie. On 4 occasions, Littlefoot gave into peer pressure.
But there are no consequences to him giving into peer pressure. It's like, oh, don't walk through the quicksand. Oh, you walked through the quicksand. Okay.
Yeah, there's definitely a let's not listen to parents theme that's throughout all the movies.
Well, this one is especially bad because they run away from home and everything. They're being intentionally rebellious.
I mean, that's what gets the views.
This is like prehistoric influencers, right?
Yeah. Once again, Truman Show, as I said.
So I think the biggest overarching theme is this idea that kids want to be grown-ups and grown-ups want to be kids. And Littlefoot eventually lands that he likes being a kid and looks forward to being a grown-up. Anyone feel like that resonated with them?
I don't think I've
I don't know
ever
if-
wanted to be a grown-up.
I feel like I don't agree with that.
I was listening to a review of the movie 13 Going on 30 with Jennifer Garner. For people who don't know, it's about a 13-year-old who hates the way her life is, and she really wants to be 30. And so she makes a wish on house glitter, and then all of a sudden wakes up as a 30-year-old. And the person who was reviewing it said that the fakest thing about the movie is that any kid would want to be 30. Nobody ever says that. And their perception of a 30-year-old is that 30-year-olds are ancient and the Pope Walker. I kind of feel like this whole movie is based on a lie.
I don't think kids ever want to be adults. I think it's more just like, oh, I wish I could do that. And I think movies have been feeding us that kids want to be adults forever. But I don't think that's actually true.
Yeah, I think adults want to be kids. But the lie I was referring to, that this movie is based on, having seen it and watched it and evaluated their performance, in his song, Ozzy says eggs, plural. And I am not convinced he's ever eaten an egg in his life.
When I wake up in the morning, nothing.
I starve a little bit more.
All these missing plot points in the story, once again, are explained by the Truman Show.
Why is it then that some speak English and some don't? Wouldn't that be a
Well, you cast extras all the
Yeah,
time.
they're just extras.
flop
They're
hole?
not-
Okay, hold on. Is Spike actually a video camera?
He's like a robot dinosaur.
Like a drone. The VHS case described the movie on the back as a captivating story of hope, love, and trust. Is that what you took away from the movie?
No.
I think if this movie were based on 3 values, it would be eggs, child abduction, and racism.
Those didn't make it to the back of the movie case.
Are you looking for a gritty world about racism, child abduction, and eggs? Lamb before taxi.
I'm just imagining a scientist mixing things in vials until a Land Before Time VHS pops out.
Oh, it's like the Powerpuff Girls making the formula.
Drops his breakfast sandwich in and just a little too much eggs.
A gritty world, child abduction, racism, accidentally adds a dinosaur.
Did anyone have a favorite part of the movie?
I mean, this has got to be a world's first. But in this extremely mediocre movie, 2 out of the 3 songs are the highlight for me.
Wow.
How many songs did you like in Quest for Camelot again?
Oh, these songs are not as good as the Quest for Camelot songs.
Okay. Would you mind giving us a quick rating? Since you're the musical guy here.
John's the one who started being the musical guy. I don't know how that came over to me.
I don't know. You're usually the
I'm
one who
just
brings
a very
up the songs.
critical
You
one
talked
when it
about
comes to
your
songs.
Obsessive admiration for that one song for Quest for Camelot.
Like every tree stands on its own, reaching for the skies, I stand alone.
Could you sing a single one of those songs from Titan AE when they're like surfing around in the clouds?
I was just listening to our podcast, so I can. It's my time to fly.
I think you are the song guy.
I don't know. Can you sing a song from Descendants?
Court, right into the court. Everybody could do that, though.
Yeah. Even Chance, right, Chance?
He was singing. I could hear him.
You were singing?
Oh my
I
goodness.
don't know. I think Chance actually wants to watch Rise of Red.
Do you know how many of those 86 million views were Chance?
I felt like when the dinosaurs teared up in this movie, I wanted to tear up. I think Littlefoot's goodbye to Chomper and the music that was playing in the background was...
It's my time to fly.
I can go my own way. I can go the distance.
Okay, Tim, in researching this film, do you have any other trivia you want to add, like how massive of a success it was?
As we've said in the past, this was a direct-to-VHS movie, so we don't know how financially viable it was. All we know is that the first Land Before Time came out in 1988. This movie came out 6 years later when the dino craze kicked off with Jurassic Park. And while we don't know numbers of how financially successful it was, it spawned a dozen plus sequels. Presumably it made bank. I don't have much to say about this from a pop culture perspective, because I really burned through my pop culture knowledge thinking that we were going to be one and done with these terrible movies. All I will say is that this movie is easily the best Land Before Time sequel we've watched. The New York Post rated these movies, and they put this movie as being the 5th best Land Before Time movie. I did look at various other less official lists, and they all put this movie in the top half of the Land Before Time movies. So this is one of the better ones. That's all I got to say about that.
It's not a very high bar to clear, if we're being honest.
No, it's certainly not.
John, I took a look at the Land Before Time wiki,
Yeah.
and on a page for Littlefoot, I saw the words, Littlefoot is so handsome, and his father is handsome, and he has his mother's eyes. They are beautiful. Not like Sarah. Sarah and her dad are rude. Sarah needs to be more kind, like the princess she is.
That's John writing that, by the way.
The rules on the Land Before Wiki is that anyone can edit as long as it's in good taste. Does anyone have anything else they want to say before we move to closing comments?
No, that's what I want. Closing?
No, I've got one more thing to say.
Okay.
I went back to the Land Before Time wiki for like 30 seconds, and there's a post by Choppermon, 1999. If you're here, Choppermon, 1999, thank you for this gem. He's the leader of the bunch. You know him well. He's finally back to kick some tail. He's the first member of the prehistoric PAL crew. Huh. DK. Dino Crew. Somebody rewrote the DK family rap as Land Before Time.
Incredible. Closing.
Yes. Closing comments. Kylan, before you describe your cookie for this movie, for Land Before Time 3, you said, I want to be very clear here. I think Land Before Time 3 is the worst movie I've ever seen. And for Land Before Time 4, you said, it didn't get a cookie, as movies don't get any worse than this. So, what is your cookie and rating for this film?
My cookie for 3 was...
You didn't have a cookie for 3. That was before cookies.
Oh, okay. No, I could have sworn I said it was a cookie cutter. Because I was going to say this one was a cookie cutter.
That was Titan A.
That was... No, you're right.
All the aliens were Land Before Time dinosaurs.
Every time I was going to be like, it's a cookie cutter of a dinosaur.
You wait.
I've ruined it. I've ruined it. Yeah, this movie's awful. Not as bad as 3. Not as bad as 4. Cookie cutter of a dinosaur.
Okay, Kai, if you do choose to change your cookie, just let us know.
If I change, like, during this episode of the podcast?
If you come back and you suddenly...
No, I'm going to keep this as a veto power. I'm going to use this, like, 8 years in the future.
You're going to keep watching Land Before Time movies?
No,
in 8 years.
I'm just suddenly going to... On my deathbed, I'm going to be laying...
In 8 years?
No, this is back to what Chance said earlier. No, later than 8 years, I'm going to use it.
You're going to be watching Land Before Time movies later than 8 years from now?
I'm going to be on my deathbed and randomly I'm like, that was a
Gotta
bad
watch
choice.
another Land Before Time
No!
movie.
This is the exact same thing you got Chance with forever ago. And you're like, oh, you're going to be watching this on your deathbed? I'm falling for the same trap.
Kylan's funeral.
If any of you are still alive when I die, because I'm going to outlive all of you.
In 8 years?
Yeah, when I die in 8 years, for my funeral, watch all of the Land Before Time movies, and then all of the Descendants movies.
Back to back?
Yeah, watching all the Land Before Time movies will make you so grateful for the Descendants movies, Chance. I'm pretty sure it might become your favorite movie of all
I've
time.
never heard of a celebration of life marathon.
Kai, if you get a legal document that is your will and testament,
It says, to gain my inheritance, that you have to watch all of the Land Before Time movies. Like in movies where it's like, they must complete the gauntlet to earn my inheritance.
One Piece. It's yours. You just have to take it.
Chance,
Yes.
before we get to your 11-point grade scale, that Land Before Time 3 was a nothing movie. There's no reason to watch it. You'll spend 70 minutes better by staring at a wall. And you gave Land Before Time 4 a -2. How does this one compare?
This is the 2. It is a mediocre, poor film. There are parts of it that are tolerable. There are parts of it that actively harm my well-being. But it's not to the same level of Dougal. It's a mediocre movie.
So,
It is better, but that's the same as being tased once is better than being tased twice. It doesn't mean either one is an enjoyable experience.
So, whereas you gave the last one -2, you're giving this one +2.
+2?
Yeah.
Whoa. You have genuine enjoyment from this movie?
I mentioned that eggs are funny.
Yeah,
And I
that's a
mentioned
negative.
myself that 2 of the songs in this movie are highlights.
Chance, I don't know if you understand the question here. The implication of it being on the positive scale is that you enjoyed it somewhat.
No. Is that it's good.
Yeah, it's somewhat good.
It is. It's a very mediocre movie.
I don't think that's the same thing as somewhat good.
Okay, moving on to Tim.
Yeah.
Tim, will you be watching this movie again? Now, keep in mind, for Land Before Time 3, you said you had a good time seeing the boys discover it, but not a good time rediscovering it yourself. For Land Before Time 4, you said you'd leave the room if someone started watching it again. This one compare.
It's a really good review.
That could be applied to every Land Before Time movie.
How would you rate this? If one of my friends started playing this in the room, I would stop being friends with them.
Like I said, this movie is better than the last two, but I have no intention of ever watching it again. I don't know what it would take for someone to trick me into watching this again. Maybe if Chance has kids in the near future and he gets his kids really into this movie and then I'm babysitting them one night and I have to watch it with them, I will watch it happily, knowing that Chance would have had to watch it several times with his kids to get me to that place. No, I have no intention of ever watching this movie again. If I wasn't actively punishing myself in a podcast, I would never watch any of these.
All right. Well, that leaves it to me. I think it's a beautiful movie from an inspirational series. If you haven't watched it all, your life isn't complete. Stay tuned for all the rest of the Land Before Time movies that we're going to watch in the future.
No.
I do actually think even the animation of this one stands out. I think they were really trying to make the sequel a decent movie, but it felt like the other movies after that were maybe more of a chore compared to this one. So, moving on to the next episode, we usually tell you what movie to watch in advance, except that might be a little bit tricky for what's happening next time. We're going to be trying something a little bit different. Essentially, what's happening is that we're using an online random movie generator to pick a movie, except we're each getting our own random movie, and we won't know what each other has watched.
This episode's gonna be garbage.
It's going to be amazing.
It's kind of like movie Guess Who, almost.
I think this is going to be a glorious dumpster fire. So I'm excited to see how it goes. Either this will be our best episode
For our work.
or we'll never talk about it again.
Does anyone have any callbacks that they want to mention before we...
Before time, callbacks only.
When I wake up in the morning, eggs.
Welcome, guys. Welcome back to another episode of Eggs. I'm your host,
Ozzy.
Dusty.
Before there was airplanes or cars or trucks.
The
There was
narrator for One
eggs.
More Time movie.
Yeah.
All right, well, come and find out what we do on the next Bullied Nostalgia podcast.
You just run out of energy, like you out of batteries.
Yeah.
Next
John's
time
the
for-
thought of enjoying this has just broken down.
Battery low.
Come back next time on the Bullied Nostalgia podcast.
Woo! Look out for weirdos.